Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, post-match. Aryna Sabalenka versus Coco Gauff, Roland Garros 2025 final. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video. Coco Gauff, your Roland Garros champion, now a two-time major champion, and both times it has been Aryna Sabalenka victimized in the final. Gauff beats Sabalenka after dropping the first set, 6-4 in the third. And just like the narrative a couple of years ago in New York was that Sabalenka was all over the place, that will be the prevailing sentiment again. But I think we'd be remiss not to be realistic about what's actually at play here. It's an extremely windy day, and it's a Coco Gauff match, and it's cold. And they're playing on clay. This is what she does. This is how Coco Gauff wins. And despite Sabalenka being the favorite coming in those conditions, if they run that match back 10 times, I still think Coco wins most of them because of that, the specific parameters of that environment and the kind of tennis that needed to be played. So Sabalenka, 70 unforced errors. Tennis was ugly. All that is true. But I don't think that takes away from the fact that Gauff shows once again that she is the perfect competitor above the shoulders. Not that I've never seen her falter mentally, but more often than not, it's going to work, point in and point out, emotionally incredibly stable, resourceful, and ferocious in how hard she's competing. She's also the fastest player in the world easily. And on the backhand especially, the absorption skills are amazing. Again, it's a cold and windy day on a clay court, and she's the fastest in the world, and she moves well on this surface. It's not going to be easy to finish against her. It's not going to be easy to hit the ball through her. It's just not. Coco leads the head-to-head here, 6-5. And it always looks like this. It's always on Sabalenka's racket. Coco's profiting off of unforced errors. This is the blueprint. This is what she does. So I think we have to get real, as does potentially Sabalenka, who said it was the worst final she's ever played, and I'm sorry for this horrible final, and about how the conditions were terrible. So that I won't get on her for. I think she needs to get real about it also. It's not that Sabalenka just magically happens to play this awful tennis whenever she plays Coco Gauff. Like, the two things are connected. They are connected. And for Coco, it's full commitment to make balls and to D-up. It doesn't matter how much running she has to do. It doesn't matter if she feels like she's not in control of the outcomes. That makes most tennis players feel very uneasy. They don't like that. Coco doesn't mind it. She trusts it. She knows it's how she needs to play. Does she drop a couple balls short as a result because she's playing it a little bit safer? Yes, she does. Most players who drop a ball short against Sabalenka, see ya, good night, nice to know ya. Gauff is so fast, her defense is so good that at times she can drop the ball short and live to tell the tale. She can stay in the points, make Sabalenka hit a couple of extra shots, which is so valuable because, especially in these conditions, Sabalenka just couldn't keep it nearly as steady as Gauff. Not even close. And the point of all of this is Coco doesn't care if it's not pretty. She doesn't care if she's not hitting winners down the line all the time. Based on the way she plays, it's the Arthur Ashe quote. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And Coco's just leaning on her strengths and making sure that she's not going to lose because of her head, and she's going to basically make Sabalenka earn everything and hit through Coco's legs in these very difficult conditions. And that was the match. Now, let's get a little more detail-oriented. Gauff focused on Sabalenka's backhand in a big way. And I don't know if that's how she's always played Sabalenka, but it was very noticeable in this match. Aryna ended up hitting 205 backhands versus 154 forehands. And sure enough, the backhand was the far more erratic wing. Aryna's dangerous off of both sides, hurts you everywhere. That's for sure. But the idea for Coco that, well, we're going to take our chances whenever we can with her backhand, that worked really well. Because Sabalenka made 36 backhand unforced errors, 21 forehand unforced errors. And I found watching the match that the backhand contact point was more sensitive. And in the windy conditions and with Coco's ball that she plays with a lot of shape, she uses the backhand slice as well. With Coco's ball kind of moving up and down so much and the wind sometimes taking the ball right and left and the timing being disrupted, how many times do we see Sabalenka like get jammed on a backhand or like have to fight it off above her head and just look completely uncomfortable? When it's low, I think it looks more uncomfortable. The forehand, there's a little bit more freedom of movement. So it's more malleable in terms of hitting the ball out of the zone. And Sabalenka didn't break down as much on the forehand as a result. She broke down much more on the backhand. I think the biggest thing that Coco improved after the first set, which she dropped, was the length and the speed on her forehand return. Sabalenka was serving Coco's forehand all throughout the first set. Coco wasn't hitting through that forehand return, and it was short and it was slow. And Sabalenka was eating those +1 balls as a little snack, and it changed a lot. Coco started sitting on that, and there were so many returns that were pacey up the middle, rushing Sabalenka on that first ball. That started to happen over and over again. That was a huge change, a turnaround in the match that was very easy to see. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's literally something that she decided on the set break or was told at the set break, because first game of the second set, it was like a completely different Gauff forehand return where she was accelerating and hitting through that shot and actually using the speed to her advantage. Which in rally, she wasn't doing all that often. In rally, it was more the high, kind of shaped, heavily spun forehand, but not on the return. The return was getting back onto Sabalenka quickly. Another key was the first serve percentage, because Coco's second serve was a huge vulnerability. Her second serve was the worst part of her game today. In the first set, she had to hit a lot of second serves. Let's see, what was the first serve percentage for Coco? 57% in the first set. And then in set 2, raises it to 68%. In set 3, it's 68% again. So she kept that percentage high, enough to protect her second serve. Let's see for the match. Coco actually won 50% of her second serve points for the match. That's a little bit surprising to see. A lot of that is winning with defense and Sabalenka missing some aggressive returns and all that, because the second serve itself was very attackable. So let's get to some Sabalenka critiques. It's a major final, so there's more pressure already. You want to play well. The conditions are tough. You're probably not going to play well by your standards no matter what when it's this windy. So that's a challenge mentally. That's a challenge emotionally. You have to accept that you're not going to be able to do the things that you necessarily want to do. So much of playing in the wind is acceptance. Sabalenka didn't get there, and as a result, she didn't control her emotions well. And how that manifested in the match itself is she would go on pretty cold patches, and she potentially let some of the negativity bleed from one point to another. She's a player who's known for at times getting very, very hot, which is great, but recently she's done a better job of not getting very, very cold because she's had more emotional stability. That wasn't really the case in this match. I also felt her decision-making got incredibly cloudy. As soon as she stopped trusting her bread-and-butter power game, it just seemed like she didn't know what to do. And there came a point where the drop shots she was playing and the net approaches, all the decisions just looked late. It all looked late and uncertain. There wasn't ownership. There wasn't confidence in her execution. And I think that's because now in her game, there are more options, but she just didn't trust any of them enough to really feel comfortable with what she was doing out there. So I thought there were a lot of drop shots in particular that just looked panicked, and they didn't have a clear target, and her body wasn't under control, and they just looked almost like everything was happening late. There were a lot of ugly ones, right? She never went to getting patient and working the points a little bit longer. It felt very panicked as soon as it got like over 9 shots, and she was very desperate to find a finish at that point. And I don't really know why. It's not like she doesn't have fitness. It's not like she doesn't have legs. It's not like she can't move with Coco a little bit in a baseline rally. I'm not saying her movement is comparable to Coco's, but also make Gauff come up with something in some of these rallies. 9+ shot rallies were 17-7 for Gauff. Unforced errors in that sample were 9-1. Can we appreciate Gauff in that statistic a little bit? They play almost 30 rallies over 9 shots, and in those 30 points, Gauff makes 1 unforced error. This is what we're talking about. And this comes back to, like, can we appreciate physicality? Can we appreciate mental toughness? Can we appreciate consistency? If we can't, we might be like, yeah, that was garbage, and Sabalenka threw it away, and it was the worst final ever. If we can't appreciate those things. If we can, then we can say, okay, Coco was a really tough out in these conditions. And I think that's the more accurate way to look at it. And by the way, there was a winner advantage for Coco as well in 9+ rallies. Now, I think that's because Sabalenka was forcing drop shots and forcing some net rushing and just opening up those opportunities for Gauff. Not so much that Coco was blasting winners from behind the baseline. Big picture, Sabalenka, she's had some issues at the end of majors. Her record is 3-3, but she's been the higher-ranked player in all 6. She does have a couple of losses, including the one earlier this year to Madison Keys, against players outside the top 10 in these major finals. So I don't think she gets better in them. I think she gets a little bit shakier, which is pretty normal. But the great champions, like if she's going to be an all-timer, and I actually think she has the talent level to potentially do that, if she's going to be one of the all-timers, she needs to figure out a way to bring her best in some of these bigger matches at the end of slams. I still think beating Swiatek was massive and is important regardless of what happened in this final. But ultimately, she's going to leave disappointed, and she still hasn't won a major outside of hardcourt. And that's probably her main focus right now, her main aim, and the thing that she feels like is really missing from her resume at this stage. But it is a really great performance by Gauff here, physically and mentally. Maybe not technically, maybe not the prettiest tennis, but she is so good in getting the most out of what she can do out there in any situation. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.